The most painful part of the story was not that the apprentices worked from morning till night. It was that they came to learn a skill, but instead, they became slaves in the house of a woman who called herself Madam. The apprentices. In a busy Lagos street, just beside the main road where buses honked and traders shouted, there was a hairdressing salon. The owner was a woman everybody called Madam Sade. She was known across the street for her sharp tongue and wicked ways. Young girls came from far and near to learn hairdressing from her. Some came from villages, some from the city. Their parents gave them to Madam with the hope that after years of training, they would learn how to make hair and be able to feed themselves in the future. But once the apprentices entered Madam Sade's house, their dreams began to die. Instead of learning how to braid hair, Madam used them like housemaids. At dawn, before the sun even rose, she would shout their names. One would fetch water, another would sweep the compound, another would wash her children's clothes, another would cook food for the whole house. By the time they got to the salon, it was already late in the morning, and Madame would start shouting at them. "Useless girls, look at the time you are coming. Customers have been waiting since." But she knew very well that she was the one who kept them busy at home. When customers came, Madame Sade hardly allowed her apprentices to touch hair. Instead, she would say, "Just stand there and be looking. You don't know anything yet." She made them stand for hours, holding combs and extensions like statues. And if one of them dared to sit down when tired, Madame would shout in front of everybody, "Lazy girl, your mates are learning work. You are sitting down to eat my food for free." The insults did not end. She called them bush girl, dirty goat, good for nothing, and even beat some with broom or slippers if they made mistakes. Many nights, the apprentices cried silently on the mats they slept on. They whispered to each other, "Is this how we will learn? We came to braid hair, but see us, we are only washing plates." Some wanted to run away, but they were scared of how their parents would react. Others stayed, hoping that one day Madame would change. But she never changed. One hot afternoon, while Madame was still busy shouting at her apprentices, a new salon opened just 3 shops away. The owner was a young woman named Amaka, freshly from Lagos mainland. She had worked under a cheerful salon boss before starting her own business. Amaka's salon was different. The walls were painted bright pink, music played softly from a small speaker, and she always had a smile on her face. When customers came, Amaka would laugh with them. She cracked jokes, told funny Lagos stories, and even danced while braiding hair. Her apprentices, though still learning, were allowed to practice. She guided them with patience. "No, my dear, don't hold the braid too tight. Here, let me show you again. Good job, you are improving." Even when they made mistakes, Amaka corrected them with calmness, not insults. The customers began to notice. At first, customers still went to Madame Sade because she had been there longer, but they could not help noticing the difference between the 2 shops. In Madame Sade's salon, the air was always heavy with insults. Customers sat in silence, afraid she might turn on them too if they complained. But in Amaka's salon, there was laughter, gist, and freedom. Even the apprentices looked happy. One by one, customers began to cross the street. "Let me try this new salon," they said. And when they tried, they did not return to Madame Sade. Weeks passed, then months. Madame Sade's salon that used to be full was now half empty. Sometimes she would sit by the door, waiting for customers that never came. Her apprentices noticed too. Work was reducing, but the house chores never stopped. One day, one of the apprentices whispered, "Have you seen Amaka's shop? People are always laughing there. Customers wait outside because the place is full." Another replied, "Yes, and I heard she even buys food for her apprentices sometimes." The word spread among them like fire. Hope began to return to their hearts. The last straw came when one of Madame's regular customers went to Amaka's salon for the first time. When Madame saw her the next day, she shouted, "Ah, Madame Titi, why did you betray me? You went to that small girl's shop?" Madame Titi looked her in the eyes and said, "Sade, it is not betrayal. I just want peace. Each time I sit here, you are shouting at those poor girls. Even the hair you make, you rush it with anger. At Amaka's place, there is joy. Hairdressing is not only about hands, it is also about heart." That day, Madame Sade felt her stomach tighten. She could not eat. Slowly, all her customers left. One afternoon, Madame sat inside her empty shop, staring at the mirrors. The chairs were empty. The sound of laughter was gone. Her apprentices stood outside, whispering to one another. For the first time, Madame Sade felt powerless. The world had turned against her wickedness. But instead of changing, she became bitter. She shouted at her apprentices even more. Many of them ran away and begged Amaka to accept them. And because Amaka had a good heart, she took some in and began to teach them properly. The lesson. Years later, Madame Sade's salon closed completely. She had no apprentices, no customers, no joy. But Amaka's salon grew bigger. She trained many girls who later opened their own shops. Some of them remembered the pain they suffered under Madame Sade, and they thanked Amaka for showing them love. The story of Madame Sade became a warning in the community. Parents no longer rushed to leave their daughters with wicked teachers. People said, "Work is not only about skill, it is also about how you treat people. If your hand is good but your heart is wicked, customers will run from you." And so, the wicked hairdresser lost everything, not because her hands were bad, but because her heart was. Moral: when you treat people badly, even your skill cannot save you. But when you treat people with respect and kindness, your work will grow.